So this is the Orange and Blue World Series, which is one of the final outings for the fall scrimmages outdoors. I guess it's the final kind of hurrah in fall baseball before we go hide away inside and avoid the snow. This is the 5-scope machine, and basically it's similar to what Major League Baseball has installed. There's a radar and camera in there that gives us spin rates of baseballs, both pitched and hit, velocities, where the ball crosses the plate, spin axis. It has probably 25 or 30 different columns of information that they give us. So every pitch I chart what the pitch was and the results of the pitch, and then it gives me the rest. So I do that for however many 200-something pitches. This leads to a whole bunch of metrics that we can use with our pitching staff: velocity, spin rate, spin axis of their pitch, how much movement they're getting, their release point, pretty much endless. And with hitters, obviously there's exit velocity, launch angle, kind of the two big buzzwords now in baseball. It also projects how far the ball goes. I've been seeing a lot of progress from a bunch of the guys. I mean, analytically and just watching. A lot of guys have made good improvements over the summer. I mean, we have a great group of guys coming in and definitely great guys returning. I think we have a good mix of both. I think we're going to be in a good position. Obviously, we're a little sad last season when we came up a little short, but I think it'll be different this year. I'm pretty confident. My name's Charlie Young. I'm a computer science and astronomy major at the University of Illinois. So I grew up in Naperville, about 45 minutes outside Chicago. My dad coached me in Little League all the way through. I played for 9 or 10 years. My mom was team mom when I was really young in Little League, and now my brother plays. So yeah, I would consider us a baseball family. I knew I wanted to keep baseball in my life somehow after I finished playing. I didn't really know in what capacity. But then when my favorite team, the Chicago Cubs, won the World Series, it kind of put me on notice in terms of baseball analytics. So that got me interested. Since I have some sort of computer science background, I thought I could put my skill with baseball and computer science and combine it to, at the very least, keep it as a hobby. My dad bought me a few books for Christmas about analytics, how they were used in pro baseball, how they got started. But I remember specifically sitting on my dorm bed reading, and it said Professor Emeritus Alan Nathan at the University of Illinois, and I got to read it again, and I was like, wow, okay, I guess there's a world-renowned baseball physicist that teaches at my university. So right after I finished reading that sentence, I picked up my computer, sent him an email saying, hey, I saw your name in a book and I'm really interested in baseball analytics. At the very least, could we just meet so I can introduce myself? And then that kind of took off from there, obviously, where now I'm meeting with him every week, so.
Look at the data.
Well, I think it comes down to how I calculate V star, and I thought...
Well, show me how you do it. Let's take a look.
Release speed times rho over rho naught.
Okay.
And then rho is...
Baseball analytics is adding value to data in order to make important decisions.
Temperature times pressure times humidity.
Decisions such as, who should I pitch in this game against this particular lineup? Should I acquire this free agent? Should I make this trade? So analytics is part of the basis for what you might call decision science. My strong point is understanding the technologies and understanding the physics behind the technologies and sort of interpreting what the data mean. Charlie's strong point is really more on the analytic side. It's using the data, compiling it in interesting ways to make it useful to the on-field people, the coaches, the players. And communicating that to them is a big deal. We don't speak the same language. Players are not going to want to look at tables of numbers, right? They really want to know the essence of it. And Charlie is developing the skill needed to be able to do something like that. So that's a very valuable skill.
One of the biggest things I'm learning from him outside of just baseball specifics, just how to be a scientist, basically, how to conduct research effectively. I think my skill in coding and statistical programming languages can help him out to put his ideas into a graph to visualize it. So I think we're both benefiting from our relationship.
Professor Alan Nathan's passion for baseball was sparked in the confines of Fenway Park, home of the Boston Red Sox, and led by one of the greatest hitters of all time.
Ted Williams was the first scientist of hitting. He would spend probably all his conscious hours and maybe some of his unconscious hours just thinking about hitting. Back in 1957, Ted Williams, at the age of 40, hit .388 with a bunch of home runs, which was incredible. And that really got me hooked on both the Red Sox and baseball in general. I always knew I wanted to be a physicist since maybe the 5th grade. I think I knew it even before I could spell it. I was a graduate student at Princeton, and I think the opportunities presented themselves better for me in nuclear physics. So that's what I did, and that's what I stuck with. I arrived at the University of Illinois the day before Elvis Presley died, in August of 1977. So I've been here 41 plus years.
Alan's transition from the collision of subatomic particles to those of baseballs and bats almost happened by accident. After giving a talk on the book, The Physics of Baseball, Alan was surprised to see his event published in the local newspaper.
And I thought I would read the book, talk about it, and I'd learn something, and it would be kind of fun, and it would be a one-shot deal and never to be returned to again. But what happened was people started calling me, and I sort of thought, hey, this is kind of fun. Maybe I should start to pursue this a little bit more seriously. And that's how it began.
Using the same principles he utilized in his experimental nuclear physics work, he began studying everything from characterizing the performance of baseball bats to the mystics of a knuckleball. Alan quickly gained a reputation as one of the leading experts of baseball physics. Within the next decade of Alan's research, a new era of data would begin to captivate baseball fans, with breakthrough technologies like PitchFX and StatCast. These tracking devices monitored major league pitchers and batters across the country, detailing everything from launch angles, pitch speeds, exit velocities, and more.
The data tell us all kinds of things, like how much does a curveball break? How much does a ball slow down between when it's released and when it crosses home plate? Major League Baseball itself was paying attention to what amateurs like myself and others were doing, and it's definitely grown over the years.
Dr. Alan Nathan was among the scientists to take part in this study, and he joins us now. Doctor, the study couldn't determine how the newer balls are producing the less drag, so I'm hoping you can elaborate and give us some of the headlines of that report.
We found that once that ball is in the air, it is simply carrying further now than it did 2 years ago. So it is an aerodynamic effect.
Concerned about the rise of home runs in the last decade, the Commissioner of Major League Baseball appointed a special committee to investigate the recent trend, chaired by Alan. Released in 2019, the committee concluded that changes to batters' hitting approaches and decreased seam heights on the ball allowed hits in the air to travel farther with less air resistance, turning some pop-ups into home runs.
Without air drag, a ball hit 400 feet would have traveled maybe 700 feet. So it's a huge, huge effect. And a small little subtle change in that air drag could actually affect things. That was what we found. And that's actually still an ongoing project involving myself and some other people.
Two decades later, and Alan is still educating the public on the physics of baseball.
The other thing you can do is swing the bat, which is the normal thing you're doing, okay? And there, the momentum transferred from ball to bat is not enough to make the bat recoil back, but it does slow down considerably.
As technologies advanced, it soon grabbed the attention of the University of Illinois baseball team, taking a huge step into a new era and one not utilized by many programs in the Big Ten Conference. The team knew exactly who to call.
Baseball is a game of numbers. The problem as you go down in levels is you don't have the data. You don't have the numbers that they have in the major leagues. So we decided to take a look at what we could do. Obviously, the first person you call is Professor Nathan. We ultimately decided to go with flight scope because it was portable and we can go, being a cold weather climate, we can go indoor, outdoor, move it around. I think that was the ultimate decision why we went with it. And then Alan said he would have a student that might be interested in helping us out, and that's where Charlie came along.
Originally with the flight scope, we weren't really sure what we were going to get. We knew it had all like the buzzword exit velocity, launch angle, spin rate, things like that. After we all came to the consensus that this is what we really want to work with, it then became my job to figure out how to accurately present the data to the coaches in a way that they could consume it and work with the pitchers or batters. So it was definitely a learning experience the first season, but now in the second season I think we really worked out all the kinks and I think we can hit the ground running. We're ready to put it to its full use.
I've always said this, you get to a point with practice where you just need to play somebody else. You need to find out where you are. Guys think they're ready. Some of them will be, some of them won't be. But until you play someone else, you can't convince them of certain things. So it's that time.
Coming in, I definitely looked up to the players. I didn't know how they'd interact with me, just a computer science kid who was interested in baseball. But right as I got here, they totally embraced me. I love working with the players. His two-seam, it's generally, if you're throwing like a fastball or slider, it's basically this will be where it goes. So for a lefty, a two-seam would kind of tail back this way. So that's why it shows like 8 o'clock, and a slider will tail that way, so it'll go like 4 o'clock with the slider.
As a pitcher, we look at all that data from flight scope, contact rate, pitch speed, break, spin axis, anything like that, and I just try and use that information, try and elevate my game, especially when we're in the indoor. We sit back there, everyone's behind him, he's got the computer.
It gives us a game-like atmosphere where we know exactly what's going on in a controlled environment. If I throw a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, I know I throw a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, and if somebody hits that 350 feet, I'll know exactly how far it's going. So it definitely creates a competition and camaraderie around it.
I think having an indoor facility in that time of year and the way we use stuff is actually more beneficial than being on the baseball field, as far as how many arms we can throw at one time with multiple mounds. And having Charlie there with the set data, all the pitch tracking metrics of horizontal break, vertical break, our strike percentage usage was a big deal, the heat mapping of the strike zone, and not to mention then the adverse effect of that of, hey, how hard's the ball being hit off of us as a pitching standpoint of it. Because in the indoor facility, yeah, you're playing a full game, but sometimes the ball can be hit and then boom, it's into a net right away.
So now, they said it went 360. Just now? Oh, I think it was 360 to center-ish. Yeah. 87. Exit velocity is how fast the ball is moving once it leaves the bat in miles per hour. So an elite exit velocity for a home run is usually 100 or above. That's usually, you can hear it all around the ballpark. If someone hits 100 or higher, that's what you hear. The crack of the bat is usually one of those.
And we have a lot of times we can look at Charlie and say, hey, what was that? Guy thought he hit it hard, and it really wasn't.
The fastball before that? Yeah. I think it was like 85.
So that helps me when it comes to making decisions for who's going to pitch. I think a lot of times who's going to play for you a little bit, but it's between a couple of guys, and some of those metrics are great tell to say, hey, this guy's exit velo is only 75 mile an hour off of him. This guy's 85. So this guy obviously induces a lot more soft contact, and that helps us in the decision making and putting the right guys in the field.
The biggest thing I try and get out of Charlie is, the exit velocity in different quadrants of the strike zones. It kind of shows guys where they're hitting the ball the hardest, what percentage they're swinging at strikes, not balls. If they're swinging outside the zone, it gives us an idea of what pitches are given different guys trouble and what locations are giving them trouble and what pitch should they be looking for.
The thing that me and Charlie have pinpointed together has kind of been my pitch selection. So, you know, by having the automated zone through the flight scope, I've been able to see what pitches I'm swinging at and, you know, what pitches I'm getting in different counts and you know, what are my hot spots, what are pitches that I don't hit very well. So just kind of having all that data available to me has been huge.
I know things, but nowhere near as much as I would have known if I didn't know Charlie.
But like his two seam is at like 270 because it's breaking arm side. So that's kind of how you read it. Basically the direction of movement. And if you're on like the upper half, it's basically you're getting on top of it like you're getting topspin, and the bottom half would be backspin. Does that kind of make sense?
It makes sense, yeah.
Okay.
He's easy to talk to, and he knows how to talk baseball. He's not some savant that is not communication driven, which is huge. And when wanting to know information, it's easy to get out of him, it's easy to talk, and I can move on and make those guys better.
It's just been eye-opening to have all those numbers in front of you. Now, with that being said, I think as coaches, we need to be really smart how we present that and how we use that information so we don't freeze up our players. It's great information for us as coaches, and it can be great information with our players as long as we give them the proper information and don't you know, overwhelm them.
Let's go! All nine, let's go! Girls, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, girls! To enjoy more real Texas barbecue, visit Informational.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing he does in season right now is he puts together defensive alignment with charts. So it allows us to shift guys more.
We're not tracking player positioning, where we don't get like arm strength from infielders or anything. So the best I can do is give them charts of where the opposition will hit the baseball, also known as shifting or spray charts.
The payoff. High fly ball, right field. Yalowitz circles. Ball game over. Illinois knocks off number 20, Coastal Carolina.
I web scrape data for our opposition and send a chart to our pitching coach, Drew Dickinson, who likes to position our infielders.
Whoever's got to be careful here, not to give him something too easy.
3-1, ground ball, right side. Massey is there though. The shift pays off, and Massey throws Scotty Bradley out.
So right there was a good example of our infield positioning. On that last play, Massey was shifted in the hole a little bit to the right side of the infield, and he had to move 1 or 2 steps really to get that ball. But if he were playing where he usually did, he would have to range 3 or 4 steps to his left, which he could definitely do, being the caliber player that he is. But it's just nice to see when the data actually is accurate and shows exactly where the hitter would hit that ball. Not many college teams are doing it. We're probably one of the few, at least in the Big Ten, that's really going in depth and putting numbers to the faces of the opposition.
It's become very, very sophisticated and very, very subtle, and to some extent controversial, in that it so drastically affects the game that a lot of people simply don't like it. It's certainly taking advantage of the data that you have available, but in a way that is, to some extent, controversial. There are many people who think that all these analytics are taking the fun out of baseball. I actually am not one of those people. I actually think it makes the game more fun.
I don't know what fun you're taking away from the player or what, because they want results. So having results is fun. No players can tell you otherwise. But you do have this disconnect right now of the old school way and the new school way. You can't forget this game is still played by human beings between 2 white lines, and there's no computers out there to tell them otherwise. They still have to do it on their own. So computer and tech can only take you so far. I think this gives you an extra tool to be better. So I think the coaches and the organizations that kind of have a solid mix are the ones that will continue to win.
I think generally when people start using numbers, the players start to do better. At least I would hope so if they're using it effectively, and that would lead to more amazing pitching performances, more home runs.
Deep left, back, a 3-run homer. Illinois wins.
I think it depends on your taste for baseball, but I think if you want a better experience on the field, I think numbers are definitely playing a huge part in that.
While still an emerging science, analytics has proven to be beneficial for the Illinois baseball team. The team finished their 2019 season tied for second in fielding percentage in the country, while setting a new Big Ten record. And their number of errors dropped by over 21% from the previous season. As one of the best defensive teams in the country, Charlie owes part of this success to the infield shifts he and the coaches were able to construct from FlightScope. The team was also rewarded with its first NCAA tournament appearance since 2015. The University of Illinois isn't slowing down anytime soon. Charlie's promising results inspired Illinois athletics to launch Fighting Illini Data. Open to all Illinois varsity teams, the group is not only using analytics to research ways to develop young talent, but to help them maintain a healthy student-athlete experience.
There is something there for coaches when they have questions that they want answered, and sometimes to be able to gather data for things you don't even know what kind of questions you might have. Seeing Charlie come in and being able to do that for baseball helped us to be able to define what we wanted to be able to offer to other sports. And while we want it to be something that helps them with the on-the-field performance, we also understand that a lot of this data can help the student-athletes succeed in general. Whether they're successful on the field or not, we want to make sure that they're successful in life.
It's the wave of the future. I think it can help us be better coaches from a teaching standpoint. And instead of us just saying, hey, that looks good, the number tells them that if they do certain things that we're trying to teach, that they can be a better player.
I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. I think it's only going to get bigger. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting future.